Hello you guys, and welcome to Abundantly Minimal. My name is Sarah, and today I am pretty sad to report that I am saying goodbye to an item that has been in my life for almost 8 years. And unfortunately, even though this item was something I used so often, I do have to come to terms with the fact that it no longer works. It just recently stopped working a couple days ago. I am forced to move on from this, and this is actually my phone. I have used this same phone here for over 7.5 years. Basically, I have had to come to terms with the fact that it no longer works. Now, it was definitely a source of pride for me. I know it maybe seems a little silly, and I know I'm one of the few people, at least in the millennial generation, who probably has a phone that they use for this many years. But I have really enjoyed using it. Now, don't worry too much, because back in the day, because I enjoyed this phone so much, and typically if you have a phone contract with the same company for a long time, eventually they'll be like, hey, you can get a free upgrade. I'll talk about those free upgrades in a second, but while they are completely identical, that you can't actually tell this one has been used for that much, besides like the duct tape I have on the back holding the battery pack in, which has been there for many years too. But so I do have a replacement, and I have to go through and put contacts in again. So if you are someone who knows me very well and maybe have texted me or tried calling me recently, I have been phoneless for a couple days, and I will work on getting those contacts back in so I can talk to you again. But in the meantime, I am officially saying goodbye to my old phone here. Now, why is it so hard for me to have to say goodbye to this phone? Don't normal people always upgrade their phones? Well, yes, it does seem like in today's society, especially in American society, it's very common to always want to be upgrading to the next model. Well, I understand that certain features, such as when the smartphones first came out, or when you are upgrading substantially to another device, you are given the possibility to have a lot more options in terms of what you can do. Obviously, upgrading from my flip phone that I have here to a smartphone does give you a lot of different options for how you use it. And I'm not going to say that there aren't benefits to that. I know there are benefits, but I also know that there are drawbacks too. One drawback, though, unfortunately, that we don't always think about when we're upgrading our phones very quickly is the issue of e-waste. I have mentioned this a little bit way back in the day when Jake and I were doing podcast episodes. I'll actually link the episode down below if you are curious in hearing more extended thoughts about the issue of technology and e-waste. But anyways, with the massive number of electronic devices that we're using these days, at least in American society, maybe other places as well, we are generating so much e-waste. And this has a variety of different problems. First of all, from the clutter perspective, I think it can be tricky to dispose of these electronics properly and in an efficient way. Many of us hold on to these knowing that we can't just throw them in the regular garbage. And I know I've been there, but you may have some extra electronics laying around your house right now that you haven't used in a while, years maybe. Whether that is old phones, whether that is computers or music players, anything like that. These electronic devices, after we have them, they do make us uncertain about what to do with them. So that could be like the first layer, that you just have some of this clutter around your home from these past devices. But it goes much further than that, and that's when we look at the e-waste industry, if you will, and looking at the environmental and social impacts of our electronic devices. Just like any good that we can purchase that has either positive or negative effects, or maybe a mix of both, our electronics are the same way, if not a little bit worse actually. With the electronics, unfortunately, it can be very overwhelming because many of us want to do the right thing. We want to get them recycled in a way that we can use those resources again. But many of the organizations that do claim to be recycling the items are maybe not actually taking them to the right place. A lot of this e-waste gets shipped overseas to areas such as Guayou, China is one of the main locations, several parts of Asia, some parts of Africa, specifically Nigeria. And when our e-waste is shipped there, it is not, unfortunately, dealt with in the safest way possible just due to the limited resources. American companies, for instance, are paying these other countries to take the e-waste and kind of keep it off our hands. So then Americans don't have to worry about the negative health or environmental effects that these technological gadgets can cause. When that e-waste is then shipped to these other countries, you often have very poor communities taking this in by hand, breaking down these devices, maybe burning parts of it to release certain precious metals or minerals. And because of that, it creates a lot of harmful smoke that they are breathing in, and a lot of harmful air pollution for the people who work there. It can impact the water supply. For example, in some areas that are so heavily polluted, the people who live there are not actually able to drink their own water. They have to import water in or bring in bottled water from nearby areas because it's been so damaged. Not only this, but there's also some connections to child labor, and it is often kids who are not even just being close to this in terms of proximity, but sometimes kids are the ones who are going through the process of trying to separate these metals. So even though for me it was almost kind of a joke to some, like, wow, Sarah's so proud of having that old phone, it was intentional. The idea that I knew I did not want to contribute more to this massive e-waste epidemic. Now, I know that I'm very much involved with technological gadgets, and I know I'm not perfect with it. In addition to my phone, I have a computer, I have an iPod, music player, I have this camera that I'm recording on, I have some other technological recording video gadgets that I use. And so with all of these things here, I know I'm not, being a perfect person in terms of my impact. But for me, something that's so important, and I'd urge you to maybe start thinking the same way, I really try to use these electronic devices until I'm no longer able to do so. Not just upgrade for the sake of upgrading, but holding onto them and really getting the full value I can out of them. Because maybe the last time you upgrade on your phone, did it actually need it? Was your old phone completely broken or completely useless at that time? That's something to think about if maybe it's not. Now, I know that again, it's going to depend heavily on the person, and maybe there are specifics you need for that particular upgrade, but I kind of want to use this example of my phone that I've had for 7.5 years dying to kind of illustrate just the great issue that e-waste can be. Now, it is very tough to feel like you're finding a reputable source for recycling your electronics. I have done some research and will include some links below to give you some ideas about where you might be able to take these items or to learn more about e-waste. But I think it's definitely an issue that's worth talking about and worth thinking more about, especially when we, at least in American society, are so far removed from looking at all of the different effects of our choices. We only have to really see the product in the store and owning it ourselves, and then, disposing it somewhere or letting it sit in a junk drawer or in your basement somewhere. We don't have to see the true impact, not only when the item's made and created, even worse, the impact after it's done. So like I said earlier, I will post those links in the description field if you're interested in learning more about the issue. I post several videos per week regarding minimalism and healthy living, so if you are seeking to live your best life with less, you can subscribe to the channel right here so you will not miss our videos, and I also have several past videos that you can click on here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.